Captain Jake Morrison stood in front of the biggest alien building he had ever seen. The ice on Mars had hidden this thing for thousands of years. His team from the ship Columbia came here to find water, but they found something much more important. Building was made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. It was huge, maybe the size of 10 football fields put together. The walls were smooth and covered with strange symbols that looked like writing, but not like any writing Jake had ever seen before. Dr. Lisa Carter walked around the building with her scanner in her hands. She was the best person on the team for studying old alien things. The numbers on her scanner were going crazy. This building was older than anything they knew about in the whole galaxy. "Captain, you need to come here right now," called Ryan Hayes from across the ice field. Ryan was their communications officer, and he was good at his job. He was looking at his portable computer, and his face was very pale. Jake walked over to Ryan, his boots making crunching sounds on the frozen ground. The other team members followed him. There were 8 people in total on this mission, and they all knew that finding this building was going to change everything. "What did you find?" "Ryan?" Jake asked. Ryan pointed at his screen. "These symbols on the building, sir. I ran them through our language database. They match something we already know about." "What do they match?" "Ancient human writing, sir. The really old stuff from Earth, from before we had modern language. It's called cuneiform, and it's exactly the same as what the first humans used to write with." The team stood in silence for a moment. This made no sense at all. How could an alien building on Mars have human writing on it? Humans had only been in space for a few hundred years. This building was much, much older than that. Dr. Carter came running over to them. Her scanner was making loud beeping sounds. "Captain, I found an entrance. The door is designed for people exactly our size. Not bigger, not smaller. It's like whoever built this place was expecting humans to come here." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach, and it was not from the Martian weather. "Show me this door!" They followed Dr. Carter around to the side of the building. There was indeed a door, and it was the perfect size for a human to walk through. The door had a hand-shaped mark on it, like it was waiting for someone to put their hand there to open it. "Sir, should I try to open it?" asked Amy Rodriguez, the team's security chief. She was a tough woman who had been in the military for 15 years. "Wait," Jake said. "Let's think about this first. We have an alien building with human writing and a door made for humans. This doesn't make sense." Dr. Carter was studying the symbols around the door. "Captain, these symbols are not just like ancient human writing. They are ancient human writing. I can read some of it. It says something about a great library and knowledge of the stars." Jake made his decision. "Amy, try the door, but be ready for anything." Amy put her hand on the mark. The door glowed bright blue for a moment, then it slid open without any sound. Inside, they could see a long hallway lit by the same blue glow as the outside walls. "The air is breathable," said Ben Parker, their science officer, looking at his instruments. "The temperature inside is perfect for humans. It's like this place was built specifically for us." They walked into the building together. The hallway was long and straight, with more symbols covering the walls. At the end of the hallway, they found a huge room filled with strange machines and what looked like thousands of crystal storage devices. "These crystals," Dr. Carter said, scanning one of them. "They contain information, lots and lots of information, more than our best computers can hold." Ryan set up his equipment and tried to read the crystals. "Captain, I'm getting data streams from these things. Star maps, genetic codes, historical records. The amount of information here is incredible." "Historical records of what?" Jake asked. "Everything, sir. Records going back hundreds of thousands of years. And Captain, there's something else. These records contain detailed information about every major alien species in our galaxy. The Zephyrians, the Voltani, all of them. It's like someone studied them very carefully and wrote down everything about them." Jake walked around the room trying to understand what they had found. "How old did you say this place was, Dr. Carter?" At least 50,000 years, Captain. Maybe much older. But that's impossible. 50,000 years ago, humans were barely using tools on Earth. We couldn't build something like this. Dr. Carter looked at her scanner again. Captain, according to these readings, this building was built by humans. The genetic markers in the construction materials are definitely human. But you're right, that should be impossible. The team spent the next several hours copying information from the crystals. The more they learned, the more confused they became. The building contained maps of the entire galaxy, showing trade routes and colonies that no one in the current galactic community knew about. It had detailed biological information about species that were supposed to be ancient and powerful. As they prepared to return to their ship, Jake looked back at the mysterious building. We're going to need a much bigger team to figure this out. And I have a feeling that when we do figure it out, it's going to change everything we thought we knew about humans and our place in the galaxy. Amy nodded. Captain, I've been thinking about something. This building wasn't hidden by accident. Someone put it under all that ice on purpose, like they were saving it for the right time. The right time for what? For us to find it, sir. For humans to find it. Jake looked up at the alien stars visible through Mars's thin atmosphere. He had a feeling that Amy was right, and that scared him more than he wanted to admit. 3 months had passed since the team found the building on Mars. Now they were working on a space station called Endeavour that orbited Earth. The station was filled with the best scientists from all over human space, and they were all trying to understand what the crystal records meant. Dr. Lisa Carter had not slept well in weeks. She spent every day working with Dr. Ben Parker and Dr. Claire Hudson to translate the ancient records. What they were finding was so incredible that sometimes she wondered if she was dreaming. The genetic evidence is clear, Dr. Hudson said to the team during their morning meeting. Every major alien species in the galaxy shares DNA markers with humans. But our markers are older than theirs. Much older. Captain Jake Morrison sat at the table with his coffee, trying to understand what the scientists were telling him. Are you saying that we came first? That we were here before the Zephyrians? And the Voltani? Dr. Carter nodded slowly. Not just before them, Captain. The records show that humans created them. Not created exactly, but we helped them become intelligent. We took primitive species from different planets and helped them evolve faster. That's impossible, Jake said. The Zephyrians have ruled the northern part of the galaxy for over 100,000 years. Their technology is more advanced than ours. How could we have created them? Dr. Parker spread out a star map on the table. Captain, look at this. These are the trade routes and colonies from the ancient records. 200,000 years ago, humans had an empire that covered the entire galaxy. We called ourselves the Terran hegemony. Jake stared at the map. It showed human colonies on thousands of worlds, connected by trade routes that reached every corner of known space. This says we ruled everything. Not ruled, Dr. Carter corrected. The records are very clear about this. The ancient humans didn't want to rule other species. They wanted to help them grow and become better. They found primitive creatures on different worlds and gave them intelligence, technology, and the chance to build their own civilizations. Amy Rodriguez, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. If we were so powerful and advanced, what happened to us? Why are we stuck on Earth and a few colonies while the aliens we supposedly created have huge empires? Dr. Hudson pulled out another crystal and connected it to the computer. This answers your question, Commander. There was a war. A huge war that tore the galaxy apart, but it wasn't a war against an outside enemy. It was a civil war between humans. The holographic display showed star systems burning and fleets of ships fighting each other. Some humans wanted to keep controlling the species they had uplifted. They thought humans should always be in charge because we created galactic civilization. But other humans disagreed. They thought the uplifted species should be free to make their own choices. Who won? Jake asked. Nobody won, Dr. Carter said sadly. The war destroyed most of human civilization. The humans who believed in freedom made a terrible choice. Rather than keep fighting and destroying the galaxy, they decided to leave. Leave to where? Earth. They came to Earth and did something incredible and terrible. They used genetic technology to make themselves forget who they really were. They made their descendants become primitive again, starting over with nothing. Kyle Mason, the team's engineer, had been studying the technical records. Captain, the technology described in these crystals is amazing. The power systems, the faster-than-light drives, the weapons. It's all more advanced than anything any current civilization has. How much more advanced? Jake asked. The Zephyrians think they have the best technology in the galaxy, Kyle said. But according to these records, their most advanced ships are like wooden boats compared to what ancient humans could build. Ryan Hayes looked up from his communication station. Captain, we have a problem. Word about our discovery is starting to spread. I've been monitoring alien communication channels, and they're talking about what we found on Mars. What are they saying? They don't believe it, sir. The Zephyrian government issued a statement calling our claims ridiculous. The Voltani Empire says we're making up stories to try to gain political power. Dr. Carter sighed. They don't want to believe it because it changes everything. For thousands of years, these species have thought of themselves as the ancient ones, the ones who built galactic civilization. The idea that they were created by humans who they see as primitive newcomers is too much for them to accept. But the evidence is right here, Jake said, pointing at the crystals. Evidence can be ignored if people don't want to see it, Amy said. The question is, what do we do now? Do we keep this secret, or do we tell the galaxy the truth? Before anyone could answer, Ryan's communication station started beeping urgently. Captain, I'm receiving a message from Earth Command. They want to speak with you immediately. It's marked as emergency priority. Jake took the call in his private office. When he came back 20 minutes later, his face was grim. Earth Command has been contacted by the Galactic Council. They're demanding that we turn over all materials from the Mars discovery for independent examination. Will we do it? Dr. Hudson asked. Earth Command is considering it. They're scared that if we don't cooperate, the major alien powers might decide we're too dangerous to leave alone. Dr. Carter stood up suddenly. Captain, there's something else in the records that I haven't told you about yet. The ancient humans didn't just leave behind historical records and technology specifications. What else did they leave? Safeguards. The records mention something called heritage protocols, automatic systems that were designed to activate if humans ever needed protection from the species they had uplifted. Kyle leaned forward. What kind of safeguards? I'm not sure yet. The technical specifications are in a deeper layer of the crystal matrix that I haven't been able to decode. But the references suggest that our ancestors left behind more than just knowledge. They left behind power. Jake felt that cold feeling in his stomach again. Dr. Carter, how much power are we talking about? I don't know, Captain. But if these records are accurate, the ancient humans built things throughout the galaxy before they left. Hidden things. Things that have been waiting for 200,000 years. Amy stood up and walked to the window that showed Earth hanging in space below them. Captain, if the alien governments are demanding our research, and if they're starting to see us as a threat, maybe it's time to find out what our ancestors left behind for us. That could be very dangerous, Jake said. More dangerous than letting the galaxy's current powers decide what to do with us, Amy replied. Sir, if the ancient records are true, then every major alien civilization owes their existence to humanity. But they're not grateful. They're scared and angry. They might decide that the best way to deal with this problem is to make sure humans never become a threat again. Dr. Parker looked at the genetic data on his screen. The commander has a point. Captain, if these alien species are willing to suppress evidence of their own origins, what else might they be willing to do? Jake looked around the room at his team. They had come to Mars looking for water and had instead found evidence that humanity was the true parent of galactic civilization. Now they had to decide what to do with that knowledge. "Dr. Carter," Jake said finally, "I want you to work on decoding those heritage protocols. But be careful. We might be about to wake up things that have been sleeping for a very long time." "Yes, sir," Dr. Carter replied. "But, Captain, I think those things have been waiting for us to wake them up." The secret about the Mars discovery could not be kept quiet for long. Even though Earth's government tried to control the information, news began to spread through human space colonies and eventually reached the alien governments. The reaction was immediate and not at all friendly. Ambassador Helen Brooks sat in the main meeting room of the Galactic Council station. For the first time in her 20 years as humanity's representative, she was not sitting in the back corner where junior species were usually placed. Today, the ancient alien races were looking at her with fear and anger instead of their usual indifference. The Zephyrian Chancellor Keth Tar was the first to speak. His tall blue form towered over the other delegates as his voice echoed through the chamber. "These human claims are completely ridiculous. The Zephyrians have ruled the northern sectors for over 100,000 years. Our historical records show no evidence of any human empire." Ambassador Brooks remained calm, though her heart was beating fast. "Your Excellency, your historical records only go back 90,000 years. According to our findings, there is a gap of 10,000 years where your records show nothing at all." "That proves nothing," Chancellor Keth Tar replied angrily. Dr. Lisa Carter, who had been brought to the station as humanity's expert witness, stood up and activated a holographic display. "Actually, it proves quite a lot. The genetic evidence is overwhelming. Every major species in this council chamber shares common DNA markers with humanity, but the human markers are the original templates." The Voltani representative, Admiral Zanros, made a sound that was probably laughter, but sounded more like metal scraping against stone. "Even if your ridiculous theory were true, it changes nothing. The past is dead. What matters is who has power now." "That's an interesting point, Admiral," Captain Jake Morrison said as he stood up at the back of the chamber. He had been listening quietly, but now he walked forward with a data pad in his hands. "You're right that current power is what matters. So let's talk about the technology that your fleets are using right now." The chamber became very quiet as Jake activated his own holographic display. "We've been analyzing the technical specifications from our ancient archives. The quantum encryption codes used by every major fleet in this chamber all come from the same source, ancient human algorithms that we now have the master keys for." Admiral Zanros stood up so quickly that his chair fell over. "What are you suggesting, human?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Jake replied calmly. "I'm stating a fact. The computer systems that control your ships, your space stations, your planetary defenses, they're all based on technology that our ancestors created. Technology that we now understand how to access and control." The implications of Jake's words hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. If humans could access and potentially control the technology that galactic civilization depended on, then the balance of power had just shifted completely. Chancellor Keth Tar's voice was much quieter when he spoke again. "You are threatening us." "No," Ambassador Brooks said firmly. "We are offering you the truth. The question is what we all do with that truth." Back on Earth, the discovery had caused its own problems. Dr. Ben Parker worked with teams of historians and language experts to re-examine human culture through the lens of their ancient heritage. What they found was disturbing and amazing at the same time. Every major human religion, every creation myth, every legend about gods who came from the stars, Dr. Parker reported to the Earth Council through a video link. "They're not myths at all. They're cultural memories our ancestors left behind. Stories about themselves, and we've been telling those stories for thousands of years without knowing they were true." The president of Earth's unified government, a woman named Patricia Wells, looked tired as she listened to the report. Dr. Parker, are you telling me that every time humans talked about gods or advanced beings, we were actually remembering ourselves? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Madam President. The ancient humans were so advanced that to their descendants who had forgotten everything, they seemed like gods, but they weren't gods, they were us. Meanwhile, on the space station Endeavour, Dr. Claire Hudson had made another crucial discovery in the deepest layers of the crystal archives. She called an emergency meeting with Captain Morrison and his team. "I found the heritage protocols," Dr. Hudson announced, "and they're not what I expected. The ancient humans didn't just leave behind knowledge and technology, they left behind guardians." "What kind of guardians?" Jake asked. "Automated defense systems scattered throughout the galaxy. Hidden installations that have been dormant for 200,000 years, waiting for the right signal to activate them." Kyle Mason looked at the technical specifications on Dr. Hudson's screen. "The scale of this is incredible. Captain, if these readings are accurate, there are hidden installations in dozens of star systems. Some of them are bigger than space stations." Amy Rodriguez studied the tactical information. "Captain, these aren't just defensive installations. Some of them are positioned to control major trade routes and strategic locations. If they're still operational after all this time, activating them would give humanity control over galactic infrastructure." Ryan Hayes looked up from his communication station with concern on his face. "Captain, I'm intercepting coded transmissions from the alien fleets. They're not just angry about our claims anymore. They're scared. And when powerful people get scared, they often do dangerous things." "What kind of transmissions?" "Military coordination signals, sir. It looks like several alien governments are forming a coalition. They're calling it a response to human aggression." Jake felt the weight of the decision that was coming. "How long do we have?" "Based on the fleet movements I'm tracking, maybe 2 weeks before they're in position to do something about us." Dr. Hudson looked at the Heritage Protocol activation codes on her screen. "Captain, the protocols can be activated remotely from here. But once we start the sequence, there's no stopping it. The ancient systems will come online throughout the galaxy." "And what exactly will happen when they come online?" "I'm not entirely sure," Dr. Hudson admitted. "The records indicate that the systems will identify current human populations and begin protective measures. But the definition of protective measures isn't clear." Ambassador Brooks's voice came through the communication system from the Galactic Council station. "Captain Morrison, I need to inform you of the Council's decision. We have been given an ultimatum. Humanity has 15 standard days to renounce all claims to ancient heritage and submit to what they call a technological evaluation. If we refuse, they will consider us a threat to galactic stability." "What does technological evaluation mean?" Jake asked. "I believe it means they want to take control of our technology and make sure we can never use it against them." Amy stood up and walked to the window, showing Earth below. "Captain, they're planning to invade us. The ultimatum is just a formality. They've already decided that humans are too dangerous to leave independent." Jake looked around the room at his team. They had found proof that humanity was the parent species of galactic civilization, but instead of being welcomed home, they were being treated as a threat. The alien species that owed their very existence to human ancestors were preparing to destroy their descendants. "Dr. Hudson," Jake said finally, "begin preparation for Heritage Protocol activation. If our children want to fight us, maybe it's time they remembered who taught them how to fight in the first place." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Jake looked at the star map showing the positions of alien fleets moving toward human space. "Dr. Hudson, our ancestors chose to forget their power rather than use it to dominate their children. But they also made sure that if those children ever turned against humanity, we would have the tools to defend ourselves. The activation requires genetic verification from 3 humans and specific quantum signatures that only the crystal archives can provide." "Then let's give our ancestors what they were waiting for," Jake said. "Let's wake up the Guardians." The galaxy was splitting apart. The revelation about humanity's ancient heritage had created two opposing sides, and the middle ground was disappearing quickly. While some alien species quietly considered the possibility that the human claims might be true, others were preparing for war. Commander Amy Rodriguez now found herself leading security for a series of increasingly dangerous diplomatic missions. In the past month, there had been 6 assassination attempts on human delegates, and intelligence reports suggested that a coalition of species was forming specifically to crush humanity's claims by force. The Cretan Syndicate had become the loudest voice calling for action against the humans. Their leader, War Prime Veltok, gave speeches that were broadcast across the galaxy, calling humanity's discoveries dangerous lies designed to justify human supremacy over the natural order. The humans want us to believe that we owe our existence to them, Veltok had declared in his most recent broadcast. They want us to bow down and accept that they are our creators and masters. This is nothing more than an attempt to take control of the galaxy through psychological manipulation. On Earth, the discovery had triggered its own crisis. Dr. Ben Parker continued working with historians and anthropologists to examine human culture through the new understanding of their heritage. The results were both wonderful and terrifying. The connections are everywhere once you know how to look for them, Dr. Parker reported to the Emergency Council session. Every major human civilization had stories about a golden age when humans lived among the stars. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Maya, the ancient Chinese, all of them had myths about gods who came from the sky and taught humanity civilization, President. Patricia Wells looked exhausted as she listened to the reports. Dr. Parker, are you saying that every ancient human culture remembered our true history? Not remembered exactly, Madam President, but they preserved echoes of it. Cultural memories passed down through stories and myths. Our ancestors made sure that even after we forgot everything else, we would still remember that once we were something greater. The President turned to General Frank Torres, the head of Earth's military forces. General, what's the status of the alien coalition fleet? They're massing in the Tau Ceti system, about 40 light-years from Earth. We're tracking at least 300 ships from 8 different species. The Cretans are providing the military leadership, but the Zephyrians and Voltani are contributing their most advanced vessels. How long before they reach our space? At their current speed, approximately 10 days. Maybe 12 if they're being cautious. Dr. Claire Hudson attended the meeting through video link from the space station Endeavour. Madam President, I've been working on the heritage protocol systems, and I've made some important discoveries about what exactly our ancestors left behind. Tell me the good news first, Doctor. The heritage installations aren't just defensive systems. They're entire automated civilizations. The ancient humans built self-maintaining cities, factories, and shipyards throughout the galaxy. When activated, these installations can produce technology and resources on a massive scale. President Wells leaned forward. And the bad news? The installations have been dormant for so long that I can't predict exactly how they'll respond. When activated, the artificial intelligence systems that run them might not recognize current humans as the same species that built them. We've changed quite a bit in 200,000 years. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Helen Brooks was fighting a political battle that seemed impossible to win. The Council had officially condemned humanity's claims and was now debating what they called protective measures against human expansion. The humans must be contained, declared Senator Yathara of the Centauri Alliance. Their claims, whether true or false, have already destabilized the galaxy. If we allow them to continue spreading these stories, it will undermine the legitimate authority of established governments. Brooks stood up to address the council. Senators, we are not spreading stories. We are sharing archaeological evidence. The genetic data, the technological specifications, the historical records, they all support the same conclusion. Evidence can be manufactured, Admiral Zanros interrupted. Humans are known for their creativity. Perhaps they have created an elaborate deception to gain political advantage. Admiral, with respect, the evidence includes genetic markers that your own scientists have confirmed as authentic. Are you suggesting that we somehow altered the DNA of every major species in the galaxy? Chancellor Kethtar rose from his seat. What we are suggesting, Ambassador, is that humanity has become a threat to galactic stability. Whether your claims are true or false is irrelevant. The result is the same. You have created chaos and division among the peaceful species of this galaxy. Brooks felt her diplomatic composure slipping. Chancellor, if our claims are true, then every species in this chamber owes its intelligence and civilization to humanity. Does that not suggest that we might have better intentions than you are assuming? It suggests that you believe you have the right to rule us, Veltok said as he entered the chamber. The Cretan War Prime was not officially a member of the Council, but his coalition fleet gave him influence that could not be ignored. You want us to accept that you are our creators so that you can claim the right to be our masters. That is not what we want, Brooks replied firmly. The ancient humans chose to give up their power rather than dominate their children. We are following their example. Are you? Veltok asked. Then why are you activating ancient military installations throughout the galaxy? The chamber fell silent. Brooks felt her heart sink as she realized that somehow the coalition had discovered what Captain Morrison's team was doing on the space station. I don't know what you're talking about, Brooks said, but she knew her voice lacked conviction. Veltok activated a holographic display that showed sensor readings from multiple star systems. 3 days ago, our monitoring stations detected quantum energy signatures in 17 different systems. The signatures match the readings from your Mars discovery. You are awakening ancient human military technology. Chancellor Kethtar's voice was cold when he spoke. Ambassador Brooks, is the Cretan War Prime correct? Are humans activating ancient weapon systems? Brooks knew that her next words would determine whether the galaxy moved toward peace or war. The systems being activated are defensive installations left by our ancestors. They are not weapons of aggression. But they are weapons, Admiral, Xanros said. Weapons that could control galactic civilization. Weapons that could protect us from fleets that are already moving toward human space with hostile intent, Brooks replied. Veltok smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. So you admit it. You are preparing for war. We are preparing to defend ourselves against a war that you are bringing to us. The War Prime turned to address the full council. Members of the Galactic Council, you have heard the human ambassador confirm that her species is activating ancient military technology. They claim it is for defense, but who decides what constitutes a threat? If humans control technology that can override our computer systems and command our fleets, then we are all at their mercy. The heritage installations are not under human control, Brooks said desperately. They are automated systems with their own artificial intelligence. We cannot command them any more than you can. Then you have released uncontrolled ancient weapons into the galaxy, Senator Yathara said. That is even worse than if you controlled them directly. Brooks realized that there was no diplomatic solution to this crisis. The alien species were too afraid of what humanity represented to listen to reason. They had already decided that humans were a threat, and nothing she said would change their minds. Ambassador, Veltok said formally, I hereby serve you with an ultimatum on behalf of the Coalition for Galactic Stability. Humanity has 72 hours to deactivate all ancient installations and surrender the Mars archives for independent examination. If you refuse, the Coalition will take whatever measures are necessary to protect galactic civilization from human aggression. Brooks stood up slowly. War Prime. If you attack humanity, you will be attacking the species that gave you the gift of intelligence. You will be destroying your own parents. Parents who abandoned their children, Veltok replied. Parents who left weapons behind to threaten those children when they returned. We do not owe gratitude to parents like that. As Brooks left the council chamber, she knew that diplomacy had failed. The galaxy was going to war, and humanity would have to depend on the guardians their ancestors had left behind. She just hoped that when those ancient systems awakened, they would remember who they were supposed to protect. The Coalition fleet was 2 days away from Earth when Captain Jake Morrison made the decision that would change the galaxy forever. Despite direct orders from Earth Command to wait for diplomatic solutions, he authorized Dr. Claire Hudson to activate the Heritage Protocol. The activation chamber on the space station Endeavour had been modified to interface with the ancient crystal archives. 3 genetic scanners were arranged around a central platform where the master control crystal pulsed with soft blue light. The system required verification from 3 human subjects and specific quantum signatures that only the ancient archives could provide. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" Dr. Hudson asked as she made final preparations. "Once we start this process, there's no way to stop it. The heritage systems will activate throughout the galaxy." Jake stood next to the first scanner, with Amy Rodriguez and Dr. Lisa Carter positioned at the other 2. "Dr. Hudson, the Coalition fleet will be here in 48 hours. They've made it clear that they plan to destroy human civilization to prevent us from using our ancient heritage. I'd rather wake up our ancestors' guardians than let our children destroy us." Amy placed her hand on the genetic scanner. "Sir, what if the ancient systems don't recognize us as human? We've evolved quite a bit in 200,000 years. "Then we'll find out what our ancestors really thought about the species they uplifted," Jake replied as he activated his own scanner. Dr. Carter was the last to place her hand on the scanner. "The genetic verification is complete. The system is asking for final authorization." Jake looked at the star map showing the approaching Coalition fleet. "Authorization granted. Wake up the Guardians." The crystal archive pulsed with brilliant light and quantum signals began broadcasting across the galaxy. Within minutes, monitoring stations throughout human space detected massive energy signatures appearing in 17 different star systems. The first sign of the Heritage Awakening was the appearance of structures near Earth that no one had ever seen before. Kyle Mason, monitoring from the engineering section, watched in amazement as objects the size of cities materialized in Earth's outer solar system. "Captain, they're not coming from anywhere," Kyle reported through the communication system. "They're literally appearing out of nothing. The quantum signatures suggest they were hidden in folded space and are now moving back into normal space-time." "What do they look like?" Jake asked. "They're clearly of human design, but the technology is centuries beyond anything we have. They're shaped like massive rings, each one about 50 kilometers in diameter. And Captain, they're trying to communicate with us." The ancient installations were indeed attempting to establish contact. Ryan Hayes worked frantically to establish communication protocols with systems that were older than recorded history. "I'm getting data streams from multiple sources," Ryan reported. "The signals are in ancient human languages, but they're also transmitting quantum-level mathematics that our computers can barely process." Dr. Hudson was monitoring the activation sequence from her station. "Captain, the heritage installations are coming online in a specific pattern. The ones closest to Earth activated first, and now the signal is spreading outward like a wave across the galaxy." Within 6 hours, the wave of activation had reached the Coalition fleet. War Prime Veltok was on the bridge of his flagship when his sensors detected 3 massive structures appearing directly in front of his fleet. "What are those things?" Veltok demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, War Prime." They appeared without warning. "They're clearly artificial, but the design is unlike anything in our databases." "Are they weapons?" "I don't know, sir. They're not targeting us, but the energy readings are off our scales." Admiral Zanros contacted Veltok from his own ship. "War Prime, my sensors show similar structures appearing throughout this sector. Whatever the humans have activated, it's on a scale we never imagined." The heritage installations were not attacking the Coalition fleet, but they were doing something far more unsettling. They began broadcasting information about the Coalition species directly to their ship's communication systems. War Prime, the Cretan communications officer reported with confusion in her voice. We're receiving detailed biological and historical data about our own species, information that should be classified at the highest levels. How detailed? Complete genetic profiles, technological development records, even psychological evaluation data. It's like someone has been watching and recording everything about Cretan civilization for thousands of years. Veltak felt a cold understanding creeping over him. Show me the data. The holographic display filled with information about Cretan biology, culture, and history. But at the beginning of every file was the same notation. Species Uplift Project initiated by Terran Hegemony, Standard Year 184,637. Genetic modification successful. Intelligence enhancement complete. Subject species ready for independent development. Similar. Broadcasts were reaching every ship in the Coalition fleet. The Zephyrians received detailed records of their transformation from primitive ocean dwellers to spacefaring mathematicians. The Voltani learned that their strategic thinking abilities were the result of careful genetic engineering by ancient human scientists. On Earth, Dr. Ben Parker was receiving the same information through the Global Communication Network. President Wells, the heritage systems are transmitting complete historical records to every major species in the galaxy, not just our claims about being their ancestors, but detailed proof of exactly how their civilizations developed. President Wells watched the data streams flowing across her displays. Dr. Parker, these records are incredibly detailed. How did our ancestors keep track of so many different species across such vast distances? The heritage installations weren't just defensive systems, Madam President. They were monitoring stations. For 200,000 years, they've been watching and recording everything that happened in the galaxy. They have complete records of every major civilization's development. Meanwhile, on the space station Endeavour, Captain Morrison was establishing contact with the artificial intelligence systems that controlled the heritage installations. The lead AI identified itself as Custodian Prime and spoke through quantum entanglement directly to the station's communication systems. Greetings, descendants of Terra. The AI's voice was clearly artificial, but somehow warm and familiar. We have maintained watch over the galaxy during your absence. The inheritance your ancestors prepared is now available for your use. Custodian. Prime, Jake said. We are grateful for your service, but we need to understand what capabilities you possess. There is a Coalition fleet approaching Earth with hostile intentions. We are aware of the Coalition fleet. We are also aware of their stated intentions to suppress the truth about their origins. This behavior pattern was predicted by your ancestors. What did our ancestors expect you to do in this situation? The Heritage Protocol has multiple response options, ranging from passive demonstration to active defense. We are currently implementing passive demonstration. The Coalition forces are receiving complete historical records proving their relationship to humanity. Dr. Hudson was monitoring the AI communication. Custodian Prime, what is active defense? Active defense involves taking control of systems that contain Terran hegemony base code. This includes most computer systems, starship networks, and planetary infrastructure currently used by uplifted species. Amy Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. You're saying you can take control of their fleets? If necessary for the protection of Terra's descendants, yes. The quantum encryption algorithms used by all major civilizations are derived from Terran hegemony security protocols. We possess the master override codes. Jake felt the enormous weight of the power his ancestors had left behind. Custodian Prime, we don't want to control the galaxy. We just want to be left in peace. Your ancestors felt the same way, Captain Morrison. However, they also recognized that peace sometimes requires the demonstration of superior strength. The Coalition fleet will shortly discover that attacking Terra's descendants is inadvisable. The Coalition fleet had indeed discovered something that changed their entire perspective on the situation. Not only were they receiving undeniable proof of humanity's role in their creation, but their own ship systems were beginning to respond to signals from the heritage installations. "War Prime," the Cretan tactical officer reported with panic in his voice. "Our weapon systems are not responding to commands. The heritage installations are somehow interfacing with our computer networks." Veltok tried to access his ship's main computer, but the screen displayed a message in ancient human script, followed by a translation. "This vessel contains Terran hegemony-derived technology. Override protocols are now in effect. Please stand by." Similar messages were appearing on every ship in the Coalition fleet. Their weapons were offline, their engines were under external control, and their communication systems were broadcasting heritage installation signals back to their home worlds. Admiral Zanros contacted Veltok on an emergency channel. "War Prime, we need to reconsider our approach. The humans weren't lying about their heritage, and the technology they've awakened is beyond our ability to resist. The standoff in space lasted for 3 days that felt like 3 years. The Coalition fleet found themselves surrounded by heritage installations that could have destroyed them instantly, but chose instead to simply wait. The psychological impact on species that had spent centuries defining themselves as the ancient powers of the galaxy was devastating." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the space station Endeavour, watching the tactical display that showed the positions of both the Coalition fleet and the newly awakened heritage installations. The ancient human systems had not fired a single shot, but they had made their point clearly. The technology gap between current galactic civilization and ancient humanity was so vast that resistance was meaningless. "Captain," Ryan Hayes reported, "from his communication station, we're receiving surrender requests from individual ships in the Coalition fleet. Some of their commanders want to negotiate separately from their government orders." "What are they saying?" "Most of them are asking for proof that we won't use the heritage systems to enslave them. They're scared, sir." Jake understood their fear. For thousands of years, these species had believed themselves to be the masters of the galaxy. Now, they had discovered that they were the children of a species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. Worse, those parents had left behind technology that made current galactic civilization look like children playing with toys. Dr. Claire Hudson approached the captain with a data pad in her hands. "Captain, I've been working with Custodian Prime to understand the full scope of what our ancestors left behind. The heritage installations are not just scattered throughout the galaxy. They form a complete network that can monitor and, if necessary, control galactic civilization." "How much control are we talking about?" "Complete control, sir. The Terran hegemony base code is embedded in every major computer system, every starship, every space station, and every planetary defense grid in known space. If the heritage systems chose to activate full control protocols, they could shut down galactic civilization entirely." Amy Rodriguez looked up from the tactical display. "Captain, that level of power explains why our ancestors chose to leave the galaxy. Who could be trusted with that much control over other species?" Jake activated the communication system to contact Custodian Prime directly. "Custodian Prime, I need to understand something. With the level of control you possess over galactic infrastructure, why didn't our ancestors simply rule the galaxy directly?" The AI's response came immediately through quantum entanglement. "Captain Morrison, your ancestors discovered that absolute power corrupts absolutely, even with the best intentions. The civil war that ended the Terran hegemony began when some humans decided that their children needed permanent guidance and protection. What happened to those humans? They became tyrants, believing that their superior knowledge and technology gave them the right to make all decisions for the uplifted species. The other faction, led by your direct ancestor, Admiral Sarah Morrison, chose to prevent that tyranny by removing human civilization from the galaxy entirely." Jake felt a chill as he realized his personal connection to the ancient events. Sarah Morrison was my ancestor. According to genetic records, yes. Admiral Morrison was one of the leaders who designed the Heritage Protocol. She believed that humanity should only return to galactic prominence if the uplifted species chose to welcome them back. Dr. Lisa Carter, who had been monitoring the conversation, spoke up. Custodian Prime, based on current events, would you say the uplifted species are ready to welcome humanity back? The current crisis suggests that they are not ready, Dr. Carter. However, the Heritage Protocol includes provisions for this situation. What kind of provisions? Your ancestors anticipated that the uplifted species might initially react with hostility to the revelation of their origins. The protocol includes a graduated response designed to demonstrate humanity's benevolent intentions, while ensuring their survival. Ambassador Helen Brooks, who had returned to Earth when the Coalition issued their ultimatum, joined the conversation through video link. Custodian Prime, what does the graduated response involve? Phase 1 was the passive demonstration of heritage capabilities. The Coalition fleet has learned that resistance to ancient human technology is futile. Phase 2 involves offering a new compact for galactic civilization based on equality and cooperation rather than domination. And if they reject the new compact? Phase 3 involves the temporary assumption of direct control over galactic infrastructure until a stable and fair system of government can be established. President Patricia Wells, who had been listening to the conversation from Earth, spoke up. Custodian Prime, that sounds like the benevolent tyranny that caused the Civil War in the first place. President Wells, the difference is that Phase 3 is designed to be temporary and to transition power to a democratically chosen galactic government that includes all species as equals. Your ancestors learned from their mistakes. Meanwhile, on the Coalition flagship, War Prime Veltak was having a very different conversation with his own advisors. The demonstration of heritage capabilities had shattered his confidence in the Coalition's military superiority. War Prime, Admiral Zan Ross reported through secure communication, our intelligence analysts have finished reviewing the historical data transmitted by the heritage installations. The evidence is overwhelming. Not only are the human claims true, but our own genetic development follows patterns that could only have been artificially guided. What are you saying, Admiral? I'm saying that we owe our intelligence, our technology, and our civilization to the ancestors of the species we came here to destroy. War Prime, we are fighting our own creators. Veltak looked at the massive heritage installations surrounding his fleet. Admiral, even if the humans created us, does that give them the right to rule us? According to the historical records, they don't want to rule us. The ancient humans gave up their power specifically to avoid becoming tyrants. They left the galaxy so that we could develop independently. Then why did they leave behind these installations? To protect themselves if we ever turned against them, which is exactly what we've done. Dr. Ben Parker, working on Earth with teams of anthropologists and historians, had made another crucial discovery about human culture and the ancient heritage. President Wells, we've found references to the Heritage Protocol in human mythology and religious texts. Our ancestors didn't just leave behind the technological guardians. They left behind cultural programming to prepare us for this moment. What kind of cultural programming? Every major human religion includes concepts of universal brotherhood, the equality of all intelligent beings, and the responsibility of the strong to protect the weak. These aren't natural human instincts, Madam President. They're cultural values deliberately programmed into human society to prevent us from becoming tyrants when we rediscovered our power. Captain Morrison realized that the moment had come to make the choice that would determine the galaxy's future. Custodian Prime, I want to address the Coalition fleet directly. Communication channels are open, Captain. Jake activated the ship-wide broadcast system that the Heritage installations could relay to every vessel in the Coalition fleet. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Space Service. I am addressing the commanders and crews of the Coalition fleet. The communication channel carried his words to over 300 ships, representing 8 different species. 3 days ago, you came here to destroy human civilization because you feared our ancient heritage. Today, you have learned that your fears were both justified and unnecessary. Our heritage gives us the power to control galactic civilization completely. The technology you depend on, the computers that run your ships, the infrastructure that supports your worlds, all of it can be controlled by the systems our ancestors left behind. But we don't want that control. Our ancestors gave up their power specifically to avoid becoming tyrants over the species they had uplifted. We offer you the same choice they offered: cooperation as equals or separation until you are ready for cooperation. War Prime Veltok, against the advice of his staff, opened a communication channel to respond. Captain Morrison, you speak of cooperation, but you hold all the power. How can there be equality when one species can override the technology of all others? War Prime, the heritage installations will share their override codes with a democratically elected galactic government that includes all species as equals. But that government must be founded on principles of mutual respect and cooperation, not fear and domination. Dr. Hudson was monitoring the technical aspects of the conversation. Captain, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations from the heritage installations. They're preparing to transmit something. Custodian Prime's voice filled the communication channel. Attention all vessels. The Heritage Network is now transmitting complete technological specifications for advanced quantum computer systems to all Coalition ships. These systems will be immune to heritage override codes and will give each species the ability to maintain technological independence. The implication was clear. Humanity was offering to give up their technological advantage voluntarily, ensuring that no species could dominate the others.